Survivors of COVID, what changes have you noticed to your health since you've recovered? I'm wiped out. Been symptom-free, besides mild cough, for over a week, but I have no endurance. Can only manage a very slow walk and constantly feel like I need a nap. It's affected me cognitively as well. I have no attention span anymore. Can't work for more than 20 minutes at a time. Caught it early on the 2nd of March when I showed symptoms. Knocked me on my ass. Couldn't breath at all. 3 months later I still feel like I've just had to run for a bus. Lungs have a cold burning feeling in them all the time. It sucks bad. I was sick for 45 days, have been recovered for a couple months. I've had some cardiac complications that are hopefully not permanent. Lingering fatigue I can't shake, very unstable appetite, lots of joint pain that comes and goes. Fainted a few times. I'm recovered, but I don't feel normal a lot of the time. I'm 26, my dad is 62 and had it as well, and he's had severe joint pain after. Neither of us can handle alcohol anymore either, one drink and I feel like shit the next morning. I'm 22 years old and despite all probability the disease hit me really hard. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks and had the usual symptoms such as high fever, dry cough and severe breathing difficulties. Meanwhile I am healthy for nearly 2 months, but my lungs are partially scarred and I have problems getting enough air during even slow running. So I hope you stay safe and take care. It's not only old people who are suffering under COVID and its effects. I'm 28. I had it in late March. I was short of breath for about a month. After that I'm back to feeling 100% normal. Like it never even happened. Not me, but a friend of my mom. She is still recovering after several months. She sometimes faints out of nowhere and has a breathing problem. She also has asthma, so that didn't help either. I am 14 and survived the coronavirus. I got a pretty bad health before this, so that wasn't helping. I noticed that I have some trouble breathing, can't smell anything anymore. My endurance went from pretty good to what the F, and people still treat me like I still have it, even though I recovered 2 months ago. Had it mid-late March. Awful illness, it wrecked me for about a week. No long-term effects from what I can tell. 29, in good health, though perhaps have some reduced lung capacity. It hasn't been enough to say for sure. I was sick for 6 days in mid-March and was in good health before that. I'm 49 years old. After my symptoms cleared, my blood pressure went up and my resting heart rate stayed in the 90s for weeks. I also had daily episodes of palpitations, several of which resulted in trips to the ER. My doctor finally put me on a beta blocker to slow my heart rate. My lungs seem to be okay. My oxygen levels are fine, but despite that I always feel a little short of breath. I've become more sensitive to temperature and regularly get mild headaches, which I didn't have before. I've also been put on sleep meds because I have insomnia. If I don't take the meds, I'll sleep less than 3 hours per night and sometimes not at all. It really sucks because if I don't get 8 hours, when I wake up I feel awful, dull headache, muscle aches, fatigue, and a little nausea. It's like being hungover. That may just be stress though. I'm in healthcare and work with a lot of COVID-positive patients. I was actually at a doctor's appointment this morning. I had a cardiac ultrasound and a stress test done. The stress test was supposed to be a 9-minute treadmill workout, but I had to stop at 6 minutes. I couldn't make it 3 more minutes. The worst part has been being repeatedly told by medical people that it's just anxiety or stress. No, it isn't. Before this happened I was fine. I wasn't constantly tired, didn't have any health issues, and wasn't on any medications. I regularly worked a lot of double shifts and now I can barely make it through 8 hours. I feel like this has aged me 10 years all at once. I feel uncomfortable most of the time. I'm afraid to do a lot of things because I don't trust that I still have the stamina or ability to anymore. I go back next week for my test results and I'm not expecting good news. I showed symptoms on March 10th and got tested on April 7th. Results came back positive on April 16th. I had extreme problems with my breathing and couldn't taste anything for most of March, all of April and into May. All in all, lasted around 7 weeks. Doctors said that the next step if my breathing got worse was to put me on a ventilator, so yeah. Since then, I have noticed I cannot run like I used to. I used to go on runs around once a week before Corona. I used to run around 5 minutes sprinting and then 15 minutes fast walking. Now, I can barely run for 30 seconds at a time. My lung capacity has been completely ruined, but I'm working on improving it. I used to nap a lot of the time, First year uni student, what can I say? But after corona, I nap all the time. I am so lethargic. I nap constantly and it's awful. I lost 22 pounds through 7 weeks of corona, probably through the lack of appetite. I now hate chocolate, almost like my taste buds have changed. And finally, I don't know if this is TMI, I am still coughing up loads of stuff from my lungs, which still feel very inflamed as of June. So yeah, still suffering even 3 months later. Edit, I am 19, so suppose it is pretty rare for someone being this ill with COVID at such a young age. I had it but only showed one symptom, COVID toes, and yes, it's real. I actually thought my doctor was joking when she informed me. This was late March and my toes are just now starting to look less purple/more normal. While it was happening it was annoying but not too painful, just strange. I don't know whether this is attributed to COVID or isolation, but I find myself having some pretty extreme mood swings since I found out. Some days I'm very optimistic and using this experience as an opportunity to work on emotional growth, and others I just feel depressed and completely stuck in my own head. Edit, if anyone is currently experiencing this, a warm foot soak with 1/8–1/4 cup vinegar and 1 tablespoon salt mixed in for about 20 minutes really helped the itching/burning sensation. Me and my partner both had it back in March after we came back from Germany, and oh my god. My partner got sick first. I didn't realize the severity of corona at the time, so I took care of him without taking any precautions. He is 28 years old and I had to walk him to the shower, wash him as he leaned on me and cried because he felt so weak. He got better after about 2 weeks with lingering fatigue. I got sick a few days after he was at his worst. My whole body felt so heavy, like I was cemented to my bed. My muscles were aching like I've never felt before and I couldn't stop shivering. I needed help to walk to the bathroom and nearly fainted every time I stood up. I got better after about a week with no obvious lingering symptoms. Guess I was lucky. First sign of symptoms started March 13th. Kicked my ass so hard I quit smoking. Once the lingering cough subsided, and being able to resist my cravings for my vape or a cigarette, I feel better, but not the same. I'd always had this weird point of pride for my lung capacity. I could hold my breath for a while and I could swim your average apartment pool lengthwise twice on one breath. Even though it doesn't feel like I lost much capacity, I tried to swim underwater and couldn't even make it one go at my apartment's pool. I also can't belt it in my car, like my voice isn't complete shit too. I'll start coughing and feel lightheaded pretty quickly. I don't feel like I lost lung capacity, but it's fairly obvious to myself that I did. Also, my sense of smell and taste have never really been the same. I couldn't smell onions for weeks, if that gives a good frame of reference. All things considered, I had a very mild case, but it still felt like I had walking pneumonia for 3 weeks. My grandparents both got COVID in March. For a while, my dad, aunt, and uncle cared for them at my grandparents' house. Eventually, my grandma went into the hospital, where they put her on a ventilator. My grandpa resisted a while because he's very anti-doctor in general, but eventually we convinced him to go in. He went on high levels of oxygen, but never a ventilator. We were very scared that my grandma especially wouldn't make it. Amazingly, they were both able to pull through, and my grandma was released about 2 weeks ago, and my grandpa was released yesterday. My grandma somehow got nerve damage in her arm at some point during the process. We aren't entirely sure how. She has absolutely no use of her left arm, and is struggling with walking, but it's making quick progress walking with a one-armed walker. The doctors say her arm will likely heal over the course of a year, but for the moment she is pretty much unable to do any cooking, cleaning, etc. My grandpa is in much worse shape. He really wasn't ready to be released, but the insurance forced him out. He is still on fairly high oxygen. Grandma is completely off of oxygen, and has a lot of trouble walking. Additionally, his appetite is completely gone, and it is a chore to get him to eat or drink. Both grandparents are slowly acting more and more like themselves, although I suspect my grandpa will never be quite the same. Despite all of the things I have mentioned above, I still feel extremely grateful that both of them are still living today. The odds of both of them surviving the condition they are in at their age are remarkable, and I couldn't be more grateful. Had it in March, and I got insomnia from it. Lots of worry, stress and sleep deprivation. It's okay now, but I do get hallucinations every now and then. Sometimes at night I just see like 4 people walk in my room and out after what feels like hours of staring at me. I live alone, just to say. If you get a random shortness of breath and you've never had any lung problems before, go to the doctor. That was the biggest mistake I made, and I don't want anyone to go through what I did. It impaired my insulin sensitivity. It took me 3 months of regular fasting to reverse this effect. My cardiovascular fitness declined. It took me 2 months of exercise to recover. I had to return my 1 year earlier exercise plan. I got significantly weaker. I had medium symptoms, lasted for 16 days. Diagnosed on March 31st, did not require hospitalization. I managed it at home with Tylenol, rest, and fluids. I was on sick leave for 2.5 weeks. I used to walk 1.5 miles with no issue on my commute to the hospital. I now get winded walking 0.2 miles from the bus stop and nearly blacked out after running a block to try to catch the bus. I'm 28. Started getting sick March 15th and was laid out for 4 to 5 weeks, completely, devastatingly exhausted and with one of the worst head and eye aches I've ever had, as a chronic migraine sufferer. After I recovered, I would still get regular dizzy spells when standing up, walking, any sort of minor activity. I almost fainted partaking in the extreme sport of hanging up laundry. That has been the biggest thing for me, the lingering exhaustion and total loss of all my muscle mass and stamina. I'll suddenly get super short of breath from a short and slow walk and have to sit with my head between my knees and do deep breaths and drink some water because my face has suddenly gone completely numb and my ears are ringing and my vision is browning out. Now these spells are coming less frequently, but still a couple a week rather than a couple a day. I think based on the rate of recovery it will be another month or 2 before they fully stop. I'm not sure how long the muscles will take to recover. I find them to get incredibly weak and noodly at the drop of a hat. Like doing basic stretching or walk a couple of blocks and they just shit out on me. They seem more susceptible to strains or pulls now as well. It's not great and I don't recommend it. I'm 24, male, completely fit and healthy. Caught the COVID really early in the lockdown. Was properly ill for 2 weeks and took me 6 weeks overall to recover. Initially even just walking was difficult. But now I am fully back to normal, back to good health. My husband and I had COVID-19 in addition. We are from NYC. I developed pneumonia, as I have asthma. The thing I noticed the most after recovering is that my lung function decrease. I described it to my doctor as I feel like someone who hasn't run and is starting out and has no stamina. Every action seems to makes me breathless. My asthma, which was well controlled prior to COVID-19 and pneumonia, has been a nightmare to try and control ever since. None of my old meds work anymore, so my doctor and I have been trying to find a new regimen. I'm thankful for prednisone. My husband, who isn't asthmatic, also said that the issues he continues to face have to do with his lungs as well. He says he feels like he can't get a good deep breath anymore. Also, my sense of taste has changed. I lost my sense of smell. It's mostly back. But things don't taste the same anymore. COVID-19 was awful. I've never had chills like that before. Full body racking chills that lasted for weeks. I've never been simultaneously burning hot and freezing cold at the same time. 0-10 do not recommend. Day 82 and still not recovered. 30s, active and healthy before this, had a mild case with shortness of breath, headache, fatigue, but the real kicker was when my peripheral nervous system decided to freak out, post-viral neuritis. My chest burns and hurts to the touch, feet and hands burning, too, with other shifting symptoms, like back pain, abdominal swelling, dizziness, blurred vision. Post-viral fatigue also means I can't do anything physical without it knocking me down for days. For other long-termers like me, our symptoms are scarily similar to me/CFS. Please know that it's not a 2-week virus for a lot of people. Some of us have been sick since before the isolation began, for crying out loud. We're not back to ourselves at all.
This is Reddit Joe channel, and don't forget to hit subscribe down below for more upcoming videos.